Good Mayor, members of the City Council, Dave Osaki, Community Development Director, City of Fife. At the very beginning of today, City Manager Zabel mentioned as part of the budget discussion that the decisions that you make as part of the upcoming 2013-2014 budget will have long-term impacts. Also, as part of today's meeting, we're going to be discussing or having a presentation from our consultants, KPG, to present to you some information and some background about another project that also has long-term impacts for the community, and that specifically is the City Center Visioning effort. The decisions here that are made as part of the City Center Visioning effort will have long-term impacts in terms of building our community, I think in terms of building our economy, making for a sustainable economic future for the community, all very much consistent. And when you look at the presentation, see how sensitive all of the materials have been to the City Council goals that you've established and adopted for both 2012 and 2013. And so the purpose of today's presentation, to the extent that it's being taped, is to bring you as a City Council up to speed on all the work and effort that's been done to date, and also to be able to put this online so that it's also available to the public, so that the public can have information about this particular effort as well. Just very quickly, just quick history in terms of what's happened recently. In April, you as a City Council authorized the City Manager to enter into a contract with KPG Consultants for a transportation plan update. And a component of that transportation plan update process was the City Center Visioning component that you'll be hearing about today. On June 5th, the Planning Commission met. They had a presentation from KPG Consultants on City Center Visioning, provided input to KPG. KPG took that information, modified some of the work that it had done for an open house that was held June 20th. We had a very successful public open house on this project with about 50 people, 50 plus people, individuals from the community attending a 3-hour open house at the community center. And in a very short time frame, from June 20th to June 25th, the Planning Commission held a special meeting on June 25th and was presented with a city center visioning concept that focused on connectivity and the development of neighborhoods, and a city center vision based on neighborhoods, again, very much consistent with the City Council vision. So with that, I'd like to introduce Paul Fusel and Michael Lampum from KPG Consultants, and they'll work through with you the presentation that was given to the Planning Commission at the end of last month. Thank you.
Thank you, David. My name is Paul Fusel. I'm an urban design principal with KPG, and Michael Lapham, who is a senior transportation planner with KPG, assisting the city on the visioning effort and the transportation plan update. What we're going to present to you today is really two parts of the update. One is quickly going through the history of when we first started visioning to today, and then the update from the effort with the public open house and the planning commissions to take a look at how land uses can be developed based upon the transportation plan update, because these two are locked in step by step. So recent meetings, David had mentioned the planning commissions on the 4th and the 25th, and the community open house on the 20th. What we discovered at those meetings was that there's a lot of excitement around the potential for doing a city center, and the logic that we've brought forward in our analysis to date, everybody we found very supportive. It made sense to a lot of folks. The visioning effort to date has been really out of the box. People have looked at their community, and what we've been providing them is a ways to look at the future in a way that is not apparent today. We've also talked to the Port of Tacoma and the State Department of Transportation, FHWA, to see if there's any fatal flaws in the logic that we've brought to date with our visioning. And they actually are receptive of the ideas, and they understand that these really mean something for the city of Fife. So there's support in that effort. And of course, those discussions with those entities is ongoing. So here's the first part of the recap. It's about 15 slides or so. Starting again, our visioning looked at the City Council goals for 2012 and 2013, which is really about community connectivity and bringing people together. A lot of our understanding and analysis of that connectivity is really the transportation network, walkable streets, friendly pedestrian walkable streets, and trying to connect the existing neighborhoods to future neighborhoods, and to try to connect both sides of the city that's currently separated by the interstate. What we really think the vision is based upon is the vision statement that the city currently has of creating a vibrant destination with a healthy balance between residential, commercial, and industrial uses, all of which are interconnected with green infrastructure and open space. The key words there are balance, and that we will have residential, commercial, and industrial uses because the relationship of Fife to the port is very important for its economic development. But the folks who live in this community want more and desire more and better connections within their city. So we again looked at, starting about a year ago, the Tide Flats study, the I-5 corridor, and everything within the city boundaries. And what really stood out looking at the Tide Flat study is all of these things that are on the books that are going to happen, a lot of those related to the port's effort with the transportation network to get their services to and from the port. And through that initial visioning, we realized that the 54th intersection was really key to take a look at how the city is connected to I-5 for future development, and really carving out within the city boundaries a city-oriented center there made a lot of sense. Leaving the Port of Tacoma interchange and the future 167 extension related more to those port activities. We had looked at what the port was looking at for 54th. We looked at two other options in terms of interchanges, and these are the three graphics of them. The diverging diamond interchange is what's currently on the books. You can't walk through this interchange. It's going against the council goals for community connectivity. Of course, it works for moving vehicles through it, but it does nothing for connecting the two sides of I-5 as a community place. Another option was the single point urban interchange that's at 509 in Tacoma. Same thing, you can't walk through this interchange. It just doesn't work. So we came up with a whole different concept. Those first two interchanges are really trying to, from a transportation end, bring everything together at that location. And what we've come up with is a dispersed concept that allows 4 on and off-ramp locations, 2 on 99 and 2 on 20th, to disperse traffic that will help encourage the kind of land use development that'll create a city center. So the transportation plan is really the key link, the framework that allows for future development of a city center to occur. The green on this particular image just shows that the parcel development now is holistic and it's not divided up by an interchange that has remnant pieces that can't be redeveloped. So they all become whole pieces which actually work with the current development, very important development of the frontages along I-5 for, let's say, the auto dealerships, so they can work hand in hand. This graphic here, again, is just, saying that around this interchange concept, we can create a city center. That's the red dashed circle. And this last slide is all the elements around our initial vision. The green irregular line is Wapato Creek, the yellow being the primary port-related activities, the red dashed right along the I-5 corridor being the existing developments related to many of the auto dealerships. And then there's 2 asterisks and a dashed line on the north side of 99, potential light rail, which we looked at, which will be coming to the city 20, 30 years from now, but we need to consider that currently with our visioning effort. So that's kind of where we've taken things to date, and we've been bringing that to different stakeholders, and they understand the issues around the potential for visioning for a city center. So now what we want to do is get a little bit more in depth with how the land uses can evolve and develop based upon this transportation idea that we have. Fife should become a city in neighborhoods. It currently has neighborhoods, but it can have more neighborhoods related to city center visioning. And what's really important, this is addresses the council goals directly, is they should be connected neighborhoods. So the current lack of pedestrian friendliness and connectivity has to be a part of this current concept and vision. So currently with the way 54th interchange works, as well as what the port had in mind for their diverging diamond brings all of that interchange life right to 20th and 99 at 54th. And then, oops, let me go back here. And then from there, traffic comes from those two intersections. What the concept we're talking about, which is dispersed with these on and off ramps, as well as now what'll just be an overpass at 54th, we can disperse traffic much easier. So you can make a choice as to where your destination is towards the new existing businesses and future new businesses. And this vignette, just the sketch, shows what one of those overpasses might be. This one being centered at 54th, but one could also be at 62nd and Frank Albert, where those two are on the books for being overpasses. These can take on a City of Fife character. What's really important here is the sidewalks become promenades connecting across. You don't have to walk over the on and off ramp interchanges that are there now. That makes it very pedestrian unfriendly. And all three of these in tandem, as you're driving down the I-5 corridor, will have the character of Fife. So you'll now know and see and feel where the city center is. And then, of course, when you get to 99 or 20th, those intersections can be redeveloped, again, as being much more pedestrian friendly with street furniture, signage, and architectural elements that are really good placemaking elements, including the crosswalks, just transforming the whole feel for the place. So now we're going to backtrack a little bit and focus again just on the transportation network. This particular drawing shows the two orange lines representing I-5, on top of that 99, below that 20th. The line right down the middle and then angles is 54th, and then the short line on either side is Frank Albert and 62nd. Around this 54th and I-5 intersection can be these four connected neighborhoods. Those connected neighborhoods are connected directly also to the current developments that are really important, those auto dealerships along the I-5. That's shown in the red angled lines. Within each of these neighborhoods then, and for the sake of today's discussion and what we brought to the Planning Commission, is we're going to show you a range of ideas of what these neighborhoods might incorporate: a civic campus concept, neighborhood serving commercial, general mixed use, and a specialty retail TOD, transit-oriented development, that could connect to the future light rail. So in terms of visioning, what we're going to show for these neighborhoods are not designs, they're just showing a range of potential developments. With the vision, if we do it successfully, we're going to set a nice high bar for the city of Fife and have enough on the books that developers will understand what the quality wants to be in terms of pedestrian connectedness and as well as development, so that these neighborhoods can unfold to the highest standards that the city desires. So these blue or these purple lines connecting the center of these neighborhoods directly addresses the City Council's goals for connectivity. And the ones that are going vertically are connected up at Frank Albert Road and 62nd. There could also be one going right down the middle of 54th. But the key with these neighborhoods is they're not separated by I-5, that these overpasses are really strong linkages to each of these core neighborhoods. So now we're going to address each neighborhood so you can see how the land use could develop around the transportation network. And before we get into that, we're going to talk about what makes a great neighborhood. Most neighborhoods, in terms of a new urbanist visioning, is they're walkable. That's about a half a minute or a quarter mile radius for walking. There's a center edge and a general area in the middle, the general area being mostly residential, the edge being commercial, and the center being open space and some things related to open space, including parks, daycare, neighborhood amenities. Within the neighborhood, there's a certain type of street typology that is walkable and allows access to homes and multifamily developments. All the streets are walkable. And then the edge of each neighborhood relates to more of a mixed-use commercial around bigger streets, and we'll show you some cross-sections and vignettes around that. So now what we're going to do is show you within the range of these 4 types what it might manifest it out to be. And again, it's just visioning at this point. For the Civic Campus, where we're currently at City Hall here, next to the pool and the community center, senior center, the high school, and down the road, the library, we thought, well, let's highlight what could happen within this quadrant as a residential neighborhood. And with the current campus planning, what we want to do is support and augment that as a civic campus design, and that's open space as well as existing and upgrades to buildings and the connections in between for activities that the city wants to promote on a civic end. This sketch shows from the transportation end what 20th might look like. The buildings are lower scale, 1-2 stories, street trees, there's on-street parking, bike lanes, nice sidewalks where there's availability center medians. This street typology of 3 lanes would occur along the east side past the off-ramps that we're showing connecting into the core area. I should mention that with the current 54th interchange shown by the port, that street's going to be 7 to 9 lanes wide on 99 and potentially as wide on 20th, right at the intersection. With the dispersed interchange concept, we would have about 5 lanes on 99, which it currently has, and 5 lanes between the on-ramps on 20th. That would then go to 3 lanes, which this drawing is showing to the east and to the west. So its character is pretty similar to what's out there today, and the development of it would be related to the civic activities that are happening within this area. Now we're going to change to another neighborhood type. This is addresses what we heard with stakeholders about the idea of, wouldn't it be great to have a larger shopping market? And Seth Harry, who is a new urbanist who we work with off the East Coast, he's really good at understanding what the marketplace can provide given the number of houses, rooftops as he calls it, for providing an impetus for a developer to develop. And with his economic analysis, he thinks what would fit currently in Fife is something that's more of a boutique kind of market store. And he's highlighted in the photo that's at the bottom left, New Seasons Market. It's out of Portland, as being an example of the type of market that can provide those sorts of groceries that the folks who live in Fife would like to get, and they would be interested in coming here because they look for specialty niche locations. They're not driven like other large supermarket chains, and they actually get their produce at the local level, so they're not trucking things all around the U.S. to their larger format. So you would get fresh produce from Puget Sound and Washington State going to New Seasons as an example, and that this could be located potentially right across the street from City Hall. We're using this as an example, scenario example, of potential underutilized property that maybe could be utilized towards this neighborhood serving commercial. And this is a vignette of that. We're going to show you another image in the scenario of how this could develop, just so council can see how the transportation and land use will connect and potentially redevelop. This is 2.5 stories tall. It says in this vignette, we said Fife Market, but that could hold, again, this New Seasons kind of concept for a smaller scale grocery store that the residents of the city could utilize, as well as people stopping off at Fife once it's redeveloped with our interchanges that are going to attract people because they're going to see this as a city center. General mixed use, this just highlights actually quite a bit of development that's happening around Puget Sound that is multi-story mixed use, retail at the bottom, and the variation of 4, 6-story tall buildings, that it's a little bit more dense in development. Currently, the market wouldn't allow this to happen, but if we make our changes with the transportation network and we codify potentials, this over time can occur. And this is a vignette of what that could look like around the center of that neighborhood with a large green and then this mixed-use development. We'll talk a little bit about architectural character at the end and how we can make the architectural character fit Fife. This last neighborhood that we're going to highlight we're calling specialty retail, and this is assuming that we, well, actually I won't say assume. Light rail at some point is going to come through the city, and light rail will stop where it makes sense. If the city has a vision and a plan that has a city center, it will make sense for Sound Transit to have a stop here. Otherwise, they might bypass the city. That's just kind of the logic in trying to determine stops. So with a transit-oriented development neighborhood, light rail would stop in the middle of that. And it would have development similar to the other neighborhood I just showed you, multiple stories. People would live and potentially work there, but also have all the services, and then they could jump on the light rail to go to destinations north and south for employment if that's the case. So you can see the range of scale from the first civic campus all the way to the future development 30 years from now where light rail comes through and there's more density in Puget Sound and people see Fife as a great place to live because of the qualities that the vision's going to extrapolate and show through our current process will invite people. So a couple more things. First, a scenario example. This is looking right across the street at the current underutilized property, and this is going back to that fresh, the New Seasons market. So as a scenario, again, this isn't a design. This is just showing you how the marketplace might unfold. The first step would be a first phase development that would house that local market store as well as some other retail activities, parking on the backside, but having a nice, because of the architectural design, a nice entrance that are going to attract people, both residents and visitors alike. That next phase then might connect the transportation network right back up to 20th with development. So the development starts with a high bar and that attracts more development. If you notice in both of these slides under this phase 2 that the existing gas station and market that's on the corner is still there, but by the time this happens 5, 10, 15 years from now, that might even be redeveloped because the highest and best use for that particular current use might be propelled by the property owner to redevelop. So this isn't to say that what exists today we're saying will change tomorrow, but this is to highlight with City Council that if we do our work right, we're going to build starting with a high level of quality and a good transportation network that will promote this kind of economic redevelopment, which benefits the existing neighborhoods and the future neighborhoods that we're talking about. With this slide, there's one more phase. Just to the west, there's port-related buildings. By the time these first 3 phases occur, even that property owner might say, at this point, I want to link into that. So what we're showing is just the notion of a tight street network, pedestrian-friendly connections with perhaps even open space. So this is... Redevelopment doesn't happen all in one fell swoop with one big design. It really is about having in the codes and the standards the level of quality you would like that represents the vision you like, that allows people to come to town or people who are in town to redevelop their parcels in a way that benefits the vision. And here's kind of a photo simulation of what the grocery store across from City Hall, which is right outside the right side of this slide, might look like, and how it leads you into that new roadway network. This is a 2.5-story tall building with plaza spaces in front. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about architecture. How do we get there? Or actually, and roads. The transportation plan update and the visioning has to consider the roadway network. This is the right-of-way that the city owns, and what we want to get straight is the pedestrian friendliness and character and the number of travel lanes and on-street parking and utilities, all those elements that if we put in new infrastructure, other folks outside or within the city see, oh, okay, I understand where this is going and I want to plug into it with my parcels. So this first one is a 2-lane road. This is the smallest scale road within those neighborhoods that we just highlighted, with 2 examples down below, one residential with front yards, single-family homes, the other one being maybe more 1-story or 1.5-story commercial mixed use. The next roadway we're highlighting is 3 lanes, so you would find this along 20th, east and west. Center medians where we can allow to have it. There would be transit on those corridors, potentially bus routes, wider sidewalks with an interface of buildings that have retail on the first floor at the very least. That doesn't mean that you couldn't have residential or a mixture. It's not a one or all deal. It's a piecemeal development as it goes along, but we establish that quality with infrastructure design. The third roadway is the 5 lanes, so this would be improvements to 20th between the on-ramps and 99. That again establish it much more as a Fife character street and a little bit less than the state route feeling that's on 99 now, older arterial design, and portions of 20th. Now architecture. So what would Fife look like in the future? How do you now codify what it should look like? Form-based codes is a great way to establish the relationships of buildings and land use development to the right-of-way that the city is going to have on the books for improving. And we can codify all the different elements of architecture to try to establish a nice range of architecture so that developers understand what the city wants to provide, and that the result is something that people feel is essentially Fife. This goes all the way down to the scale of homes. These particular images, kind of hard to see, aren't indigenous to Puget Sound. So we can find, based upon existing homes right within the city of Fife, character and fenestration and elements that can be codified to continue the current look and feel, if that's what the city desires. More form-based codes, descriptions, again, just showing how we relate the development to the right-of-way to create the community connectivity and the pedestrian friendliness that the vision's trying to show. One more, and next steps. So we have had very successful discussions. The public open house, everybody understood the vision and seemed supportive of it. With the Planning Commission, that's the same. And with some of the key stakeholders, they're also supportive of it. So we have to continue with our next steps, the dialogue. We were looking for pitfalls at the beginning. We don't seem to have found any with the current vision, so what we need to do is continue to develop it and flesh it out in the transportation plan update, continue talking to the DOT, the tribe, the Port of Tacoma, and continue our work on the transportation plan update. That is it.
Yes.
Good job. Good presentation.
We're not done yet.
Excellent. Mr. Halsey.
I'm thinking a good example of like the form-based code would be what they've done over in Leavenworth, maybe, to kind of, is that what we're talking about, kind of?
Yeah, I would say Leavenworth, where a community decided that they wanted to be so uniquely distinct that they took on a whole theme. Most communities don't take on a whole theme, but they took on that kind of German-Austrian theme, that was put in the code. So every new building, anybody who comes to town to develop has to participate in that theme. And the synergy of everybody doing that together really creates a place. Some folks might say it doesn't seem to be fully authentic in Leavenworth, but anybody who visits there, particularly during festivals, you just love that feeling of being in some place unique. With Puget Sound, doing that might be a little bit more difficult, but that's the same
But I mean,
idea. That's the basic idea, yes.
Okay.
Just wanted to say, excellent presentation. Heard a lot of good things that the Planning Commission had to say, and the reception went well. Your next steps, have you folks met with WashDOT and some of the partners? Because we all know that it's going to take partners to make this happen.
Yes, we have. In fact, we met with FHWA. So the Federal Highway Administration oversees anything related to the interstates. And so we brought forward the current vision to let them know that the city is considering the idea, and then asking them essentially, is there any pitfalls with these ideas? And what we heard was two things: that there's no fatal flaws, and that they appreciate where the city is taking their vision. Now, that's just a first step dialogue, so we still have lots of work. Just to deal with the 54th Street interchange is going to take a whole series of steps. But at least we know that what we can do is carry forward the current design concept.
Just to add what Paul said, they also acknowledge that 54th is pretty congested. Oh. Just to add what Paul said, they also acknowledge that the 54th interchange is very congested today, and that something needs to happen out there, so they're definitely open to new ideas.
Well, that's encouraging. I mean, at least they didn't say thanks, but that doesn't fit into our plans. At least it sounds like they're willing to listen to some dialogue and chat about it. So that's encouraging.
I think everybody kind of acknowledges some of the situations that are out there.
Yeah.
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor, Council. A couple of the other agencies that we're dealing with, Port of Tacoma, we've had a couple meetings with them, and they had representatives at our open house as well as one-on-ones with them, and those have gone very well. They understand that what we want to do on 54th could impact them, but they also understand why we want to do it and are wanting to work with us, because we aren't just going forward without acknowledging the need to accommodate whatever impacts this might have with them. We're looking at a new overcrossing on 70th associated with the 167 project and moving that thing forward. And so we're partnering up very well with them on this project. And then the Puyallup Tribe, we've had numerous staff level discussions. We've not been before the tribal council members with a formal presentation at this point in time. That's being scheduled right now. But good. Obviously, given our coexistence, the tribe and the city on this place called Fife, they need to be right there with us as partners, and they certainly can benefit just like the city can benefit, but we definitely want them on board and on the same page as we go forward. So, okay.
That's excellent. Yeah.
Well, wait a minute, Dave. While you're meeting with the Port of Tacoma, I think we need to come to an understanding that basically a lot of our decisions are driven by the port's expansion. If they weren't expanding, we wouldn't be in the problems we're going to have. Therefore, I think they're responsible as a partner for paying for part of this. I don't like partners that walk off with a racehorse and leave us scooping. So I think it's important that we, from the beginning, let them know that they're going to have to pay to play, to move those trucks.
Yeah, and I think the port certainly recognizes the trucks do have an impact on Fife, and one of the reasons we're looking at this project is because of truck traffic and the ability to have access in and around our city for our citizens and the folks visiting and using our businesses and so forth. So they're aware of it, beyond money, and I'm not certainly ruling out them participating on at least some of the improvements that would help facilitate this project. They also bring other capacity, other capabilities to help move this project forward. They have considerable lobbying power and their own contacts and their own ability to help move things forward on a regional and even federal basis. So I think they're a
that.
very valuable strategic partner with us.
I
And
understand they have
understand
the
your
political
viewpoint.
power.
Yes,
But they also have some dollars.
understood.
I mean, and I want to see some of their, I have to date, in my time here, have not seen any participation with their wallet. But ours has been great because of their expansion. So it's time they begin to share the load of what they're causing.
Council, any other comments or questions? Folks are quiet up here now.
Well, then I'd just like to add that in terms of visioning process and coming up with an understanding of how the city can move forward, we've never been a part of such a seamless kind of effort where everybody sees the issues the same way. All the stakeholders, all the residents, everybody's been involved. I think the experience around the 54th Street interchange as it currently stands is so strong in everybody's life day to day that there's really a desire to do something different. And that difference that we're talking about provides a great opportunity for the city to move forward in directions that nobody had ever thought of before to create great, connected, walkable neighborhoods.
Will we see some starting of development within my lifetime?
No.
How long will this take? Will we start seeing some dirt being moved in the next 5 years? How long are we?
Within the next 5 years, well, there's always development occurring. There's always people looking to do new things. So the key is to get on in the books, in the planning documents, the quality that you'd like to have. And what developers also want to do, because they're the most optimistic people out there, is they want to see that there's a commitment towards a vision and that there's a desire with that vision and enough planning that the city is going to be moving ahead in a certain direction. So I live in Ballard, and when the developers understood the open space that the residents were moving forward on and the city was doing some street improvements, and with support with council on the redevelopment of the neighborhood, they swooped in. I mean, faster than I could have imagined. So I think what they saw, and we see this in all the communities that we work with when we do our downtown projects. Those new street projects tell developers that the city's serious and they're going to move forward. So the development that you're asking about might be from the city side within 5 years with certain transportation improvement projects. And that will be enough to kickstart with the other efforts that we're doing with the transportation plan update and form-based codes and things like that to get people very excited that they want to plug in because they know the bar's been raised and the certain vision is going to be moved forward on.
So remind me again, for the transportation and comp plan, would that be incorporated into next year's cycle or currently this year's cycle, or as far as when it would actually be?
The visioning we're working on now is going to feed right into the transportation plan, and we're just getting started with some of the preliminary analysis, but it'll really get started in the fall of this year.
So then it would probably be formally adopted next year, I'm assuming then? Sounds
Yes,
like.
I believe
Yeah.
that's correct.
Well, excellent presentation. Any other questions or comments? Gang, everybody's all right? Sounded good, though. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Excellent.